Hello, everybody. Woo. Sorry I'm late. Hope you guys can hear me. I just reinstalled everything on my laptop last night. I got a new laptop and I go to enter this thing and there's no audio at all. And it's not like something's muted. It's like there's no audio installed on the whole Linux system. So got it set up a little bit late. And I was like running around my house carrying this like giant desktop around to use like a backup computer. So anyway, a little bit out of breath. Can people hear me? If a few people are here already, can somebody just tell me you can hear me so I know that I'm not just talking to myself? I'm gonna make some tea while I get some confirmation, hopefully. All right. Oh, you can hear me. Okay, great. Thank you. Sweet. All right. First of all, happy 4th of July to everybody. Well, probably some of you aren't in the US. Maybe some are even in the UK. And then, you're probably not celebrating today because we won that war. I'm not in my usual place today. This is my office. Because of this whole computer situation, I have like no time today. So I'm kind of like running around like a crazy person. Anyway, all right, let me pour myself some tea. I'm drinking some tea from Tea and Whisk, the local tea place here in Vegas. Just did a tea tasting with them last week. It was awesome. Tried a bunch of really good new tea. This. So I'm drinking, it's like a Forever Spring. It's like one of those Taiwanese high mountain oolongs. Nice. Baojiang Supreme, from Zhaozhou. Man, I'm going to Europe next week and Budapest isn't open yet, but I'm really hoping, my secret hope is that once I get there, it opens up. So then I get to go over while I'm already there. Michael, Gyokuro. Man, champion's choice. You know what I just bought? I haven't tried it yet. But I bought, Epoto has some crazy, really high-end Gyokuro this year. And a bunch of my friends here in Vegas who are visiting and live here are big Gyokuro fans. So that should come next week or so. I'm really excited to try it. All right. Video looks choppy now for me. God, maybe I should have tested this before. If the video is choppy for you guys, let me know. Maybe it's just for me. I think it's my computer. Not great. Give me 1 sec to just see what's going on here. All right. Anyway. I'm going to be in Europe. I was supposed to go today, actually, but I have to go to Austin instead for some family stuff. So a friend of mine is waiting to get her visa anyway. So I think hopefully she'll get it, or her passport, and then maybe we can go next week at the same time instead of just overlapping a little bit. So Chipotle, so glad you asked, one of my favorite topics. Chipotle it's a restaurant in the US that it's sort of like a line that you go down and they make Mexican food. It's not really, I don't know. Yeah, it's mostly Mexican food. And so you get rice, beans, meat, vegetables, guacamole, salsa, stuff like that, cheese, and it's really good quality. So it's very high end, from good farms, organic, stuff like that. And it's a really good deal, really tastes good and just really good for you. Yeah, we can go to someplace, Gout from Friday. God, I gotta do a change me or something. We gotta change your name, man. I do kind of like your icon though. Yeah, we can go to Europe. Not everywhere in Europe, but it seems like every day there's more places. So I think I'm gonna go to Prague probably because there's a lot of good tea places there that I've never been to. I might go to Warsaw. I've never been to Poland. Might go to France. If anybody's in Paris, I would love to know if the reason I want to go is because I think nobody's there, so I can just go and have it to myself. If you know whether or not that's true, let me know. Or if you're in, maybe Noah can tell me. about being in Amsterdam too. Yeah, so not sure. There's certain places I can and can't go. Man, lots of questions today. So I have like a really strict 1 hour deadline. Then I got to go. So I'm going to try to go through them here. Let's see. God, my computer is choppy. Don't know what's going on. That's annoying. Okay, let's see. Oh, there were some before it started. I'm not sure what happened to them. Anyway, okay. What would you remove, edit, or emphasize in the Super Habits book? I guess I don't actually remember everything that's in there because I wrote it so long ago. I think that the thing I would emphasize that I've really found through coaching is important. I emphasize it, but maybe just not to the level I could, is consistency. I think at the end of the day, if you just do one thing, if you just focus on consistency, you're probably going to have pretty good results. Whereas if you focus on everything else and you don't have consistency, it's not going to work. But maybe that's also just built in that, like, the whole point of the habit is to be consistent. So not sure. How do you financially figure out what's enough runway and skeptical 4% returns, future stock market returns? People have been skeptical forever and it keeps working. Doesn't mean it will keep working, but I think you have to have more of a reason than just like, I'm skeptical. I think that's like an emotional thing versus all the data sort of showing that it's probably going to keep going up. And the reason it keeps going up is because, as an economy or as a species, I guess, we become more productive, we become better, more efficient. And essentially what you're trying to do is ride that excess gain there. So I'm not worried about it. No, you're right. I do estimate about 8%. It's the sort of thing where I also, like, if I look back at my entire history as an investor in, even if you take out crypto, which I think is just such like an outlier, I'm certainly way above 8% all the time. And part of that's because I invest in friends' businesses or do other weird little things. So I guess part of the way I think about it is that I always have access to good investments. I always have, I'm not going to take on a bunch of debt where I need that whole 8% or something like that. But it's something I count on with the sort of asterisk caveat that, like, maybe I'm going to have to drop it, down someday. But I kind of don't think so. Man, it's so annoying. I got a new laptop and copied the old hard drive over, and things were a little bit choppy sometimes. And so I just reinstalled everything, and now it's choppy again. Let's see. Adam says, I'm curious about what kind of tools shop setup you have at home. Your home automation stuff is mostly electronic. Given you're making a sauna, did you rent tools to have a shop setup? I have a ton of tools. My dad's a carpenter. I guess maybe now he's not, but he was a carpenter growing up. And so to me, it's like you just have to have tools. Like to me, it's almost like, do you have silverware at home? You have to have tools. So I have, let's see, like every hand tool you can imagine, like electric ones, a miter saw, sawhorses, pneumatic tools, stuff like that. I don't have a table saw because I had my dad like actually cut his leg one time with it. And then I had a situation where I got a whole sheet of plywood thrown back at my chest. So I'm really scared of table saws. But then when I hired those guys to build my cabin on the island, they just used a circular saw for everything. So I figure if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. This house, actually, this is cool. So we bought this house and we bought the thing, like, I forget what stage we were in, but the offer was accepted or the deposit was down or whatever. I think I was here for the inspection or something like that. And I decided to look into this closet and I realized that there was a whole workshop in here. It's like this, 20 something foot long room. It's really narrow. It's probably only 6 feet wide, but it has like a workbench and pegboards that you can like put all your tools on and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool to have a workshop. But then when I started mining Ethereum, that became my Ethereum mining room. So now it has computers like all over the workbench, and I can't really use it for that anymore. I also have my 3D printer in there. Let's see. Are you into second passports or resident citizenships for tax advantages? Not really. I love the idea. Like, the idea is so appealing to me, but every time I look into it, essentially what it comes down to is like, I'm just going to pay my tax. And it's not even out of patriotic duty or anything like that. Like, I would do tax, I do like smart things to pay less tax, but I guess I feel like once it starts infringing on my freedom and I have to like do these weird things, what's the point of having money if you have to like go way out of your way just to protect it? So I think I'm also probably not rich enough that these things mattered. I'm sure if I just had like tons of money, maybe I would do it. What's up, Emily? How's it going? Welcome. With respect to your clients, other than self-blocking fear versus lack of clarity, not being consistent, what main issues are holding them back, and what were your suggestions? I think the whole point of coaching is that all of it is so tailor-made to each person that, there are definitely some generalizations, but really a lot of what I do, I think, is like getting deep into somebody's situation and figuring out, what it is that they actually need to do. Maybe one thing I would say is that I think very often people are, maybe they know exactly what they should do. I'm sitting too low, so I got to get rid of these things. People know what they should do, but they also have about 1,000 other things clouding their mind of other things maybe they should do. And so a lot of times I find that I'm trying to get rid of stuff and say, no, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, but do this one thing. And then make them accountable for that and measure it and all that sort of stuff. I'll pour myself some more tea. Oops. Can anyone tell me, does the video get choppy or is it just on my end? Sorry about the setup. Next week I'll have a better setup. Let's see. Hi, Tynan. Finally managed to catch one of these live. Would love your point of view. Is it feasible to save 175 to 200K, take out 13 to 15K annually at 7.5%, work a couple shifts a week to get my time back? Great plan. I love that plan. What I like about that plan is that it's not exactly what I would do, but it has like the same principles. And I think often the best things for people are things like that. Like, I think when people just do exactly what I do, it's like, well, maybe it's not really the right thing for you, but that seems like a cool, like, hybrid, right? Yeah, I like that idea. Nice. I like when people are thinking about these things. I started reading like Fire and Fat Fire and Coast Fire, all these sort of like Reddits about how people are dealing with money in sort of unconventional ways, how they're trying to like save money and live off the interest. Or like one cool thing is something called Coast Fire, which like, again, wouldn't be something I would do necessarily, but the idea is that people work super hard young, pre-fund their retirement accounts such that they don't have to save up any money for retirement. So they can sort of spend all of their money until retirement, and then they've got enough in their retirement accounts to retire. And I like that. It's like not what I would do personally, but I think it's like a cool way of thinking about things and how to put different things together. I like that. Let's see. I had a few random things I wanted to talk about. What were they? Let me see. This was something interesting. It made me think of it on because it's July 4th. So, I think a lot of people here are from different countries and stuff like that. But in the U.S., I think it's very cool to not like America for some reason. Like, I think people like to complain about America and talk about how like, oh, these countries are so much better in these ways and all this sort of stuff. And I personally love America. I don't think it's perfect. I think it has a lot of issues that could be fixed. But but I love America. And the other day I was having tea or dinner or something with a person from Russia, a person from China, a person from Canada, and I think some Americans too. And all of them live in the US now, but used to live in these other places. And it was really interesting because all of the foreigners were talking about like how amazing America was and like what great opportunities that there were and all this sort of stuff. And all of the Americans were sort of shocked that they loved America so much. And it's just really interesting to sort of see that perspective. And I think it actually kind of made me even more, made me appreciate America more, just seeing it from their perspective and what they thought was good about it. And then even some of the Americans like bring up negative things and they're like, yeah, but you should see what it's like in China or Russia or whatever. So it's pretty cool. What's up, Zach? Thanks for joining. I'm in my office. I got a new computer and I just didn't have time to set it up in the tea room. I'm also in a rush today because I have to go to Austin in a few hours. But I have friends coming over for tea after this, for second tea. And when I set up for tea time, I've got like my cameras and my microphones everywhere. So I figured I would try this. I think it actually works okay though. I can reach my keyboard, so it's a little bit easier to like navigate. Thanks for popping in, Nick. Hope you're drinking tea today. Appreciate it. Oh, this is a kind of interesting question. Not like one I've gotten before. On the topic of July 4th and countries, if you had infinite powers, would you keep countries or scrap them? I love countries. Again, definitely, there's issues with countries, and I think I would change aspects of them. But in the same way that I like country, like I like that different places first of all, are trying different things. In the same way that I think as individuals, it's cool if we all try different ways of living life and different ways of approaching things. We can learn from each other and we can see what other people do and maybe we copy it or maybe we say, oh, it didn't work out great for that guy, I'm not going to do it. And I think that's something that's really cool about countries, that we can all sort of try different things and then, we can hopefully take the best from other countries. I wish we would do more of that part. I think we do it to some extent, but for example, I would love to see the US copy Canada on immigration a little bit. I think they really have like some cool ideas there. So yeah, I like countries. I love states. In the US, I think it's amazing that we have all these states that are sort of competing for citizens or for residents with each other. And so they have to try different things like, different tax structures. I even like that some are, different parts of the political spectrum. So everybody can kind of have a place that, feels good for them. Rural, urban, I like that stuff. So yeah, I'm for more diversity in probably most ways, but that would be one example. What's up, Al Ibrahim? Man, I like Malaysia. Last time I went to Malaysia was years ago. And I think I was there for like an hour. No, it must have been more than an hour. It must have been like 3 or 4 hours. No, it must have been maybe more than that, 5-6 hours. And a reader took me to eat some Malaysian food. That was kind of fun. So glad you asked. Adam says, what kind of things are you 3D printing these days? I recently got a hand router and was able to print several base plates to cut different templates. Oh, that's cool. I just got a new router and I don't really know how to use a router. I get it, but I just haven't used it a lot. So I've thought about that same thing of 3D printing like a channel for it or whatever you call it. I have been printing a lot of stuff recently. So I'm trying to think if I have anything here. So I got a new laptop finally. And before I had this laptop, my laptop was so slow for various reasons that I also had a desktop, actually, which I have right here. Check this out. Oh, there it is. Huge desktop. This is my backup computer if I couldn't get video working or audio working. Weighs probably like 80 pounds. So anyway, now that I have a better laptop, what I wanted to do was get a little docking station, USB-C Thunderbolt 4 docking station, so that it can all just run off one plug. Actually, maybe I can show you that. Let's see. Nope, can't get it close enough. All right, never mind. So anyway, so I 3D printed some stuff. This is an old dock. It's not the one I use now, but you can see here's like an older dock. So you plug this one cable into your laptop, and it charges it, and then it also replicates all these ports. So I've got, you can see all the ports there, like USB and Ethernet and all that kind of stuff. So I use my calipers here, measure everything, and then I make little mounts for it. So here's, this one was a misprint, but actually this is for a router, but similar. So you screw it into the thing there, and then I measure it so that the box fits there, and then there's another one, on this side. So I made a lot of those. I've made you can't see it back there. But yeah, anyway, I made a lot of mounts. And that's the kind of stuff I really like, because it's not something that's like so important that you're going to buy a 3D printer for it. But once you have one, anytime you want to mount something, you're like, oh, great, just like measure it up and model it and print it out. So I really like that. Which neighborhood in Budapest would you recommend renting and living for a couple months? So we live in the 7th district, right near the 5th district. And I think that's, so 5th district, if here's the Danube River, here's the 5th district. It's almost like a semicircle. And of course, not exactly a semicircle, but something like that. And that's where like a lot of the business stuff is, a lot of like the more high-end restaurants are there. Some of the touristy kind of stuff. It's sort of like the most fancy area of Budapest. And so you're going to be there a lot. And then from the 5th district, there's a street. How can I do this? Anyway, there's a street that goes out called Andrassy Street. And a lot of stuff is on that too. And then next, Andrassy is in the 6th district, and then there's the 7th district next to it. And so there's this sort of point where 6, 7, and 5 meet. And that's where I would go. So it's called Deák Ferenc tér, which is, just means, I guess that's the guy's name, Deák Ferenc in square. So I would get as close to that as you can. That's sort of like the center of the city. It's where there's 3 different train lines that all go there, and you can kind of get anywhere from there. So that's where I would go. 7th district is probably my favorite, but 6th and 5th also have some really cool stuff too. So the laptop is a Lenovo X1 Carbon 9th generation. They have so many different X1 carbons now. They've like the X1 titanium that's super thin, and then I think it like maybe folds to be a tablet, and then they had the Nano, which is like a little bit smaller but doesn't have as many ports and all this stuff. So I ended up getting this one. It's funny, I always get them in Japan, because in Japan you get extra keys. Do I have a keyboard around here? I guess not. Oh yeah, I do here. So I'll show you guys this. This keyboard's probably like super worn out and filthy, but if you look at, this is my old laptop. So if you look at the keys, see how tiny that space bar is? And then look, it has these other little keys here. And those are probably the most obvious ones, but if you look at it, you can see that there's actually a lot of other smaller keys. And so what I do is I map them all to do different things, to be like home and end, and some special keys for like macros I make. But with Japan being locked down, I needed a new wireless keyboard. So I got this one, which is the one I'm using now. And it's a US one. So you can see big space bar doesn't have those extra things. And I've sort of gotten used to it. I've just made like other key combinations to achieve what I want. It's not as good. But that did let me just buy a computer from the US and set it up. So I don't know. I guess maybe when I go back to Japan, I'll buy, maybe I'll wait till the next generation, then I'll buy one of those or something like that. This is an interesting question. Recent idea that has stuck with me is people aren't afraid of dying. They're afraid of not living enough. Do you agree? My initial reaction is that I don't know. I think I maybe have different thoughts on life and death, and I'm not sure how representative mine are of other people. I actually don't think people aren't afraid of living enough. I think that most people don't live very much, to be honest with you. And like, there's like a kind of a privileged thing to say, because of course I have a lot of opportunities and I like have the freedom to kind of do whatever I want. But I also lived in an RV for 7 years to make those things happen. So it's like, even if I did have it easy, I was willing to sacrifice to do it. But I see most people, I think you have to look at what people's actions are to judge what their goals are typically. Because, I could say that my goal is to make $1 billion. I mean, look at me. How much am I working towards like trying to get investment and build a business? 0. So that's obviously not really a goal of mine. So I think people say that their goals are to do all these things. And then when you look at them, I think often you say, okay, well, I'm going to judge your goals from your actions. Your goals are just kind of survive and live in some level of comfort and continue on. So, yeah, I don't know that I agree with that personally. But I do think for some people it's true. That is a good question. I love you guys. You guys have such awesome questions. It really makes this like fun. It makes me think about things that I wouldn't think about otherwise. So it's almost a selfish thing. I like doing this because it just sort of, just makes me think about some interesting stuff. If all your friends lived in Vegas, would you travel to your other properties as often? So actually very relevant because a lot of my friends are moving to Vegas. So I moved to a new neighborhood and we have 3 houses here now. So 3 couples. And then my friend Todd may buy a place he might put an offer in actually today or the next few days. And then I have a couple other people who are considering moving to the neighborhood. And for sure, it makes me want to stay here more. And actually, even just during COVID, I found, I had no friends here for most of that time. Almost none. But just being in Vegas for a full year and sort of having to experience the summer and like figure out ways to like really enjoy it versus just like, deal with it. And kind of, branch out, do more stuff here. It made me appreciate Vegas more. So actually, I think, I used to be here about 1/3 of the year. I think I'll probably bump it up to about half. Especially if some of these friends do move here. Actually, 2 of my friends just came yesterday to rent a place for a few months to maybe move here as well. God, this computer's driving me crazy. So I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know if anybody here uses Linux, but there's something called Dotfiles, which are sort of all of your configuration files. And so let's say you install Firefox, it'll just be a default Firefox install. But then if you just copy your Dotfiles over, Firefox will see them, and then it will kind of be how it used to be, right? It'll be like the old way. And so what's interesting is that when I first installed this new stuff, everything was working perfectly. Then I copied my Dotfiles over, and now it's laggy again, which means I solved the wrong problem, unfortunately. Thoughts on living a more public life like you, sharing blog, YouTube, Instagram versus private life, and using time on other things? I think it's really, really just such an individual decision. And I think sometimes you don't really even know what you want until you sort of experience the other side of it. I used to really want to be very famous. Like when I first started my blog, I'm sure you can even find old posts where I talk about how I want to be famous. And actually, if you look at I think 4 years ago, I wrote something where I tried to predict where I'd be in 5 years. And one of them is that I thought that I would have some level of fame. And what's interesting is that I feel like with cancel culture and like doxing and all this sort of stuff, it really changed the equation where you don't want to be famous anymore. And so, again, like I was talking about, if you look at people's actions to like see what their goals are, look at my actions now. I'm not trying to be famous anymore. The way I see it is I'm going to serve the people who read my stuff and cater to them to some degree. And obviously I get a lot back from that too. It's not like some selfless thing. But yeah, like if somebody told me that I could be 10 times as famous, I wouldn't do it. And I would change things to avoid it. So I think there's pros and cons to both, but I do think that the cons for being super famous have gone downhill significantly in the past 5 years. And it makes me glad that in some ways I'm private, keeping like my family and my wife out of my sort of like public life. Makes me like, I think a little bit more willing to share some of my own stuff. Just have like some level of firewall for that. You stop drinking caffeinated tea at a certain time of day. Yeah. So I typically start my tea between, say, like 9 and like 11, maybe, or 1 would be like the latest. That reminds me of a cool thing I want to tell you guys. All right, let me remember. Remind me, high tea. So yeah, I usually start then, and then I keep drinking it throughout the day, but like every steeping has less and less less and less caffeine. So, by the time, maybe I'm still drinking at 4 or 5 p.m., but there's like zero caffeine. But I'd say I put a hard stop around 4 or 5 p.m. Like I would never start new tea at like 5 or 6. I find that tea actually really affects me a lot. Do you use Vim? I don't use Vim. I use Nano. I do sort of think Vim is probably better. Vim and Emacs, I hear about these things. I think they're probably better. I've just been using Nano so long that I really like it. And then I use Sublime Text as a visual thing. Shalom, strangers and exiles. Thanks for joining. Cancel culture aside, given that you've been blogging for so long, do you ever come across an older post and feel like editing it, deleting it before your views have changed? Yeah. So I did sometime in the past year or two. I didn't delete anything, but I hid a lot of early posts. The reason is because, well, I guess the main reason was because they were just sort of garbage. Like I didn't know that I was actually blogging for anybody. And so a lot of them were like, woo, I'm doing this crazy sleep thing. And my main concern was that if somebody went to my blog and they wanted to look way in the beginning, they would just say like, this is like garbage. It's like Tumblr kind of quality. I do change my mind on a lot of stuff. And I am embarrassed by old posts for sure. There's plenty of like really embarrassing old posts. In particular, there was a phase where I was really enamored with Tucker Max, and I think I tried to like adopt some of his persona, which is not really me. Although what's funny is now we're actually pretty similar people, but back then, different. And I'm tempted to delete them, but I don't, because I think few people are truly honest online. And if somebody actually cares to go through like my older posts, and kind of see what my journey has been like, I would rather that they see the embarrassing stuff too. So it makes at least, a somewhat accurate picture. I mean, it's hard to get a fully accurate picture when obviously I'm writing like once per week, not just like, hey, here's what I did yesterday. Here's the good stuff. Here's the bad stuff. It's more, here's something that's hopefully useful. But I do like the idea that somebody could read through it and kind of see how I've changed in certain ways. And maybe I could look through it and see how I've changed too. One reader who's now a good friend of mine actually printed out all of my blog posts, or not printed out, but he had them published into books. And actually, I don't have it here, but he gave them to me. He gives me these huge books like this thick, and he's like, "Yeah, these are your blog posts." I was like, "Oh my god, I had no idea I wrote that much." And he said, "Oh no, these are just 2 of them. There's 8 of them. The rest of them are in the car." So I think total it was like this tall, like these big books like this. So yeah. When you have that volume of anything, some of it's going to be terrible and really embarrassing. Yeah. What are we doing on time? All right, 25 minutes. Good. What do you think is the most effective method to learn code? What would your process be to approaching learning a new skill like programming or anything else? I might be out of touch enough of it. So out of touch that I don't have good advice on this, just to be totally honest. I have some friends who have done, I learned because I got a graphing calculator in 7th grade and just thought it was like I always wanted a Game Boy. My parents wouldn't let me have one. So for me, like this graphing calculator was like my chance to have a Game Boy. And so I learned how to code so I could put Mortal Kombat on it. So my friend and I wrote Mortal Kombat on this thing. And it took up 100% of the space. So you couldn't do anything else if you had Mortal Kombat on there. And it also, didn't work that great. And what really wasn't fun. And it's funny, now he and I play Population 1. We've sort of reconnected over all these years. So it's sort of full circle. So I taught myself from that. And that was a really easy way to learn because it was so basic that I knew every single command that you could do in that thing. From there, I learned Pascal in school, PHP, stuff like that. But anyway, so I've had a weird path that's probably not the right one. I think boot camps are pretty good. I have a bunch of friends who've done them. My wife did one, and I've seen that they learn a lot. And even like when my wife was doing it at first, every question she had was a dumb question, and now every question is, I'm like, well, I don't know how to even do that. So I think those are pretty good. I think the key though to like, it's one thing to understand programming and be able to do programming problems. It's another to be able to build useful things. And I guess I don't really know what matters more if you have a real job, but for me, I find that having projects that I want to exist was a big accelerant for me to learn programming, and I wouldn't have learned it if it wasn't for that. Like Set, for example, I didn't really know how to program when I started Set, and one of the files, even today, is cookie test, which was because I didn't know how to set a cookie, and I wanted to see if it was even possible. So, I think working on a project is a good way to learn. Oh, what's up, Ari? So Ari is a guy who I met. We played at the same table when I played the World Series of Poker for the second time. I think that was the year I did really well. Yeah, hi T. Yeah, you'll probably appreciate this. So I was at Bellagio yesterday, and I've been doing high tea with my friends. And high tea means that it's sort of like British style tea, and then they have like little sandwiches, some scones, and then they have like some dessert items too. And all these places in Vegas, the kitchens are really good. And so like we did the caviar one at Bellagio, so it's like little like hamachi taco with caviar and gold leaf. It's like so fancy and so delicious. And it's tiny little taco like this big. The problem, and the scones are really good. They're like fresh baked, they're buttery, they have like clotted cream, which you can only get in the UK usually. But then the tea is really bad. So we did the one, there's one at Waldorf Astoria here, and it's like this beautiful space. It's actually where I used to always go on first dates, where I met when first date with my wife. But the tea is really bad. And so after that experience, after Waldorf, I sent them an email and I was like, look, guys, I know a lot about tea. I'm like friends with all the like tea, like the best tea houses in the world. I would like to consult for you for free. I don't want any money. I don't want anything. I just want there to be a good place in Vegas that has good tea. And they didn't write me back because like I look like a psychopath or something, right? So then yesterday we're at Bellagio, and same situation, amazing like snacks, beautiful setting. They have a live pianist. It's so nice. And of course I get the tea, and it's just bad tea, right? And it's like embarrassing. It's like you're Bellagio, you're like one of the fancier hotels on the Strip, and you have like bad tea. And so the waitress, who happened to be like the manager, was really friendly. And so I was like, look, I have a really weird request for you, and please feel free to say no, because I know it's like a psycho thing to ask, but like, this experience was great. This tea is really bad. I'm a tea expert. This is what I do. I study tea. Would you be open to me helping you improve your tea program? Like, I will bring tea here. I'll teach you guys. I'll help you. I'm not making any money. I'll connect you with a vendor that's good, and I'll do all the training. I'll train you guys how to like serve tea and what you should be doing. And she was open to it. She was like psyched. So she gave me her information, and I'm gonna go next month and bring them some tea, and maybe there's going to be an amazing tea experience at Bellagio. So I'm so excited about this. It's like been one of my goals to have good tea in Vegas, to the point where I probably will open a tea house at some point, just because I want it to exist. But if I can help Bellagio have a good tea program, I think that would be amazing. And she was super nice. Like everybody there was nice. So it'd be kind of a fun thing to do. Let's see. Thoughts on ethics in poker? Yeah, Ari is more of an expert than I am, and he's like a real professional. I'm like right on that line probably. I think here's the thing about poker. On some level, it's not productive, right? So you are just shuffling money around. Like, there are other things going on that I think are very positive, but at the end of the day, you're not creating anything that is of value to other people, for the most part. And look, that's not a criticism of anybody who plays poker or anything. Like, I love poker. I think it's a really good thing to do for yourself. But that was something, I've been a professional gambler for a really long time, for online gambling, and then also, a little bit of poker. And that was what turned me away from it a little bit, was like, yeah, my goal here is to take money from other people, not to create value for them. That said, there's a dynamic I think most people don't understand that's going on at poker, which is that a lot of the people there are there for social reasons. And so, I'm sure Ari has probably a lot more experience with this than I do, but, certainly at Bellagio, there are regulars you see, and you basically come to understand that, it's like maybe an older person who, has some level of wealth, and, they're playing poker. It's keeping their mind sharp. They're interacting with young people. Everybody gets to know them. And one of the things I actually really like about poker, I should put this in the post, actually, I didn't even think about it, is that you really are exposed to a wide variety of people that you definitely wouldn't be exposed to otherwise. So, for example, yesterday we were playing with a guy who is like a farmer, and he farms, I think, like nuts and fruits, but then started farming CBD, because there's more money in CBD oil. And also this like older guy in a wheelchair who like used to run a restaurant in Chicago. And it's like, there's no other way I would have met these guys, and you definitely got the impression, not them necessarily, but some other guys at the table, they're like, yeah, like they come here, they lose money, and they get social experience, which is probably really good for their health, their mental health, and all that. So I do think that there is a service that's being provided, but I'm not, like, what's the impact of that? It's relatively small. So I think it's a mixed bag. Maybe that's a long-winded answer. For productivity and staying focused, especially when you need to do things you don't want to do, would you use something like the Pomodoro technique? How do you help coaching clients with accountability? I hate the Pomodoro technique. I don't get it, man. Here's the thing, and I've done it, so it's not like, I resisted it, and then I had a friend who wanted to do it, and we did it together. There are some tasks for which it's very good. So if I have to like clean my house or reply to emails or something, I get it. I think it's a good thing to do. It feels to me like sort of like, what's a good example? It's sort of like the like superficial fluff way to do stuff that's not like, you're not getting into those dead zone where you're like in deep work for many hours in a row. And look, I don't work that hard these days anyway, so I'm not saying I get into that zone all the time or whatever, but when I was working on set is when I experimented with it, and I was like, this is garbage. Like, if I want to get something done, I'm going to get something done. I'm going to be in there for 8 hours, and I'm going to build something. Versus like giving myself like a 5-minute break, what is it, like recess, like preschool? I don't get it, man. I don't like it. But, look, different tools for different people. It obviously works for a lot of people, or it wouldn't be something that's popular. I think for some tasks it is better. What I find works better is to build the habit of being able to work hard. I guess that's it. Rather than come up with a system to avoid working hard, I would rather build a system that teaches you how to work hard, which is what I did with myself. It's what I do with coaching clients as well. The basics of that are that you do some task that matters and is difficult every single day, and not just any random task, but like, let's say you're writing a book. You say, okay, I'm going to write a book for a half hour a day. And you block that time off and you work on it for that half hour a day. And then once you have a month of consistency, of like perfect consistency, or, it depends on the individual, but typically perfect consistency. Next month, you up it to 45 minutes. Next month, you up it to an hour. I have one client who, when we started, they couldn't get a perfect month of working for a half hour, right? When most people can't, but that was sort of the starting point. By the end, they got to the point where their problem was that they didn't have enough work to do because they just did everything, and they sold their business for 7 figures, which was sort of on the verge of like collapse for some time there. So there's a lot of power in that, building consistency, building the ability to work hard and work deeply, which I think is a skill that a lot of people don't have these days. I feel like I'm on my soapbox a little more than usual today for some reason. Let me pour myself some tea. Probably when I'm pouring tea off camera, it just looks like I'm like frozen or something, right? Just like sitting here. I don't know. This is a good question too. Man, you guys always ask good questions. Like, what other not show, but like what other like thing like this can I really answer every single question? It's going to be a good one, you know? Usually when I see these sorts of things, like 90% of the questions are garbage. Before I answer this, actually, I have a question for you guys. I'm going to put it on the screen. This is going to be fancy now that I have my computer. So my question is for you guys: how can I make it easier for people to watch Tea Time? I really like doing this, but it seems like fewer people come every time. I don't know if that means it sucks or if it means that people maybe it's just repetitive, right? Maybe it's like the same stuff every week. Maybe people are busy, or maybe I'm just not doing a good job letting people know it exists, or maybe it's the consistency. So as people who have actually shown up for this, I'd be curious to know like what your thoughts are on, should I keep doing this? Is there a way I can make it, when you don't show up, is it because you don't know what's going on? Is it because you're busy? Is it because it's a bad time? Is it because you just don't need to go to that many of them? And you're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm just, I don't need to do anything. So I'm just doing things for fun and to, to try to have some connection and be useful to people. So you won't offend me. But if you had any thoughts on that as a viewer or reader, I'd be really grateful for them. So you guys can type that and I'll answer a question. One of the other questions. This is a good one. Hold on. Let's go back to this first one. Here we go. If you had children, what would you do regarding education, regular school versus Montessori versus forest school? I've never heard of that one. Versus homeschool. I would do Montessori. So I went to Montessori as a kid. A very high proportion of my friends went to Montessori. Not because we became friends at Montessori, except for one. One of my very closest friends who I met when I was like 3.5 or 4. We're still friends. And so we all did Montessori, and I think that there's I think that it's not coincidence. And so I actually had this funny thing. I think I may have told the story on here before, but one time in history class in high school, I was not a good student, and my teacher, she said, "Tynan, come outside. I want to talk to you." So I remember we went right outside, and she said, "You went to Montessori school, didn't you?" And I said, "Like, wow, how did you know that? That's amazing. I only went for like preschool and kindergarten." And she said, "Well, all the students I have trouble with always went to Montessori because it makes people so independent that they don't want to listen to anybody else." And I thought, that's true. That's really me. So I think it really does teach independence. And I think that especially, I think I got lucky because I think maybe independence wasn't so useful when I learned it, but now in today's world, it's really useful and I've benefited from that. But I think in the future, it's going to be even more important. So I would 100% send my kid to Montessori. I think after that, Montessori is typically for the younger years. I would consider, I went to private school and I went to public school. And I think both were, the problem is I'm just saying you should do what I did because I like my life. And so I don't know. I had really good experiences in both private and public school for different reasons. So I'm not sure. I don't think I have good enough advice to really give to somebody else, but that's my experience. I had good experiences at all of them, and I'm really grateful for Montessori. I think that was the school that I liked the most and that I think probably was the most useful. And I also think early education is a lot more important than later education. So I would, if I was going to, let's say I had a fixed budget to spend on a child, I would want to spend it on like awesome Montessori tutoring, stuff like that, young, and then maybe just put them in public school. I think you would get like really good returns on that. What do you think of conventional school subjects, maths, history, geography, versus early learning, coding, focus, mindfulness, etc.? That's tough. In an ideal world, you learn everything, but do we have time for that? Maybe not. I think that people should be more self-directed. Like, I don't know. Is that really true? I probably wouldn't have taken calculus if I didn't have to, but I feel like it was valuable. On the other hand, Actually, I'm taking it back. I was going to say I think like chemistry and biology were totally useless, but I don't really believe that's actually. I think that, but I think probably I benefited from them. I'm not sure. Um, I think that there could be a little like. I think it was very useful for me to have an introduction to biology, chemistry, stuff like that. I think when I'm like calculating like ionic compounds or whatever it is, it's like totally worthless. I should not have done that. And I think there's a lot of memorization that is totally pointless. You should teach people how to find information, not how to like memorize information. Um, I'd like to see a lot more focus on finance. I think that finance and decision making, which I think are almost one and the same. When I see people make mistakes, which is often, I think the biggest mistakes I see are decision making mistakes. I think people are really bad at making decisions. And I think the only reason I have any perspective on that is because I was a professional gambler and pickup artist for so long. And that taught me sort of logical, rational decision making, and then also emotional, human based decision making. And yeah, I think that was just like super, super valuable. And I wish kids learned that, and finance too. It's just like, if you gave me like the average income versus the average person, I would be doing great versus maybe them, just because I think I've learned to manage money well. And I think that's not like because I'm a genius, it's something anybody could be taught. And I wish there was more of that. Good question. Okay, so let's see, tea time stuff. Do you think Sunday's a good day? I haven't even thought about it. You know why I did Sunday? I did it because the first week I was doing it, I think I was on Noah's tea time or what he calls it, his office hours on Friday. And so I was like, I'll do it a couple days later in case anybody wants to also come to mine. So, probably not a good reason. Yeah, interesting. I guess I have no real concept of weekdays and weekends because they're all the same to me. So I guess, yeah, also maybe I was thinking people would be at work, so they couldn't do it. But maybe people just listen at work. I don't know. Yeah. What day should I do? I'll try it a different day next week. Well, Al Abraham, I'm going to be in Europe next week, so it's probably going to be your time. It's just going to be you and me. None of the American people will show up. Let's see. Oh, a lot of them good. Yeah, it's easy to miss the announcement. Maybe I'll make a newsletter. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to think about that. Save them for boring times in my job, put them in the background. That makes sense. But then you can't ask me questions. I don't know. Maybe nobody cares. But to me, that's fun. I like when, I think the fun part is interacting. I think when I go to these things, it's a lot more fun to be there live personally, but maybe different people feel different ways. I feel like every time I have like something that's not going well, all the people who actually know about anything about marketing are like, why don't you just tell people about it? It's like, that's a good point. Okay. Yep. That is probably the least visible place I could possibly announce it. I do post it on Twitter too, 1 hour before. I don't know if that's good or not. Okay. So maybe I'll make a blog post just about tea time. That would be a good idea. And I could link to the old ones so people can see it. And then I'll time it with one that I'm going to do. Okay. That's a good idea. Weekdays, good. Yeah, I do want to have more random guests. Actually, my friend Todd was here and I wanted to do one with him, but then I had so many other friends come on these weekends that it was just like not practical. So good feedback. I will have more guests. Awesome. Oops. Yeah. Bring back Nick or Lisa. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I haven't really been super in touch with Lisa, but she was super cool. She has a lot going on. Nick and I we'll be hanging out. Well, yeah, soon. I'll have him back on for sure. I have a lot of other cool people you guys haven't met to put on too. Oops. Wow, Gcal event and newsletter. This is how I know I'm old. I don't even use Google Calendar. I use my own thing. So can I include that in a newsletter? Do we have the technology for that? I don't know. All right. We got like 3 or 4 minutes. Wow. That always goes by fast. 3 or 4 minutes. 1 or 2 more questions. Then I really have to go. I'm still wearing my pajamas. Look at these gold silk pajamas. So I got to get moving. Let's see. How do you manage the feeling of tilt in life? this is one of these things people just don't believe me, but I'll just tell you, I don't get tilted in life. I don't get tilted at all. And it's not because I'm like just super awesome or something. It's because it's because I used to get tilted a lot. It's because when I was first a professional gambler in was that high school or I was college. I sort of went from like zero exposure to that sort of thing to tons of exposure to it. And, I was gambling on credit. You could use credit cards back then. And while I had like a very real advantage, what's tilt? Tilt is basically when you you're off emotionally and you then play poor poker, essentially. So like, now I'm going on tangents. Storytelling 101 is not to do this, but this is a good one. I was at the World Series of Poker. We're down to 2 tables. And at this point, it's like many famous people, like people who like actually deserve to be there. And then there's like some random people like me. And I happened to be sat to the left of this guy. And I could tell that people were sort of like scared of him. And I look him up and he is like, somehow we got his name or he said his name. And I look him up and he's like the #1 limit poker player. And we're playing limit. And you kind of don't want somebody right next to you who's that good because they can really bully you, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm definitely going to lose now. That's it. Whatever. I made it to like 2 tables. That's amazing. And then what's interesting is the guy had a bad beat. He should have won. Somebody got a lucky card at the end. He lost. And it affected him so much that he just dumped the rest of his chips. He just played so poorly for the next 5 or 10 hands, lost all his money, and I beat him, even though he's in every single way a better player than me, except for tilt. So it really matters a lot. I think it matters a lot in life too. Anyway, sorry for the tangent. So when I was gambling on credit, and even though I had an advantage, doesn't mean I won every time. There were definitely times when I would lose. And it would really affect me. If I would lose, I'd be pissed for the whole day. I would play poorly. I would play too much. And I basically realized that I realized I had an opportunity in professional gambling, and that if I didn't, it wasn't called tilt, or if I didn't manage my emotions, basically, I was going to lose all my money. And I saw it happen to other people as well. So I think that helped. So I just got it down. And so now, I think people sometimes think I'm like robotic or like lying or like I have like deep depression hidden inside or something like that. But stuff doesn't bother me anymore, honestly. Stuff doesn't bother me generally. I mean, bad things happen that I can be upset about, but it doesn't affect my actions in any way. So, I think it's worth a thing to do. Is it okay to fly a flag today? The New York Times, dude. I'm not super right. I'm not super left. The fact that the American flag, that it's like people feel like the American flag is a symbol of the right, is I think that's their problem. Fly your flag today. My Canadian friend is moving to Vegas, and he's getting a permit to put a huge American flag up in his front yard because he loves America so much. We live in a great country. It's not perfect. I hope we continue to improve it. I think there's a lot of work to do. I think both sides of the spectrum have good ideas on that. I think that the best ideas would come from actually working together and thinking about the facts rather than like trying to get reelected. I think it's good to have American pride and to fly the flag, and which isn't to say other countries aren't great too, but just to appreciate what we have. So, yeah. All right, hold on. Let me check. I might have a few extra minutes. I do have, all right, 5 to 10 more minutes. Have a little extra time because my friend's late. Works out well. Or if there's no more questions, we can also just go. But got a few more minutes. Anyone else? Did I have one more thing I was going to tell you guys? I feel like I had a few things. Maybe not. How's this setup, by the way? Is this setup okay? Do you guys care if I'm on this camera and like this background versus the other one? Maybe it's about the same, right? pouring tea, by the way. I'm not having a seizure. Whenever I'm pouring tea and I look over at the screen, I'm just like that. You said you were playing credit, but you had an advantage. What was your advantage? There were a number of things. When it first started, they had really stupid promotions that, like, the house advantage is very fickle. It's very small. It's like people think that the casinos have a huge advantage, but it's really about 1%. That's funny. And so if they have any promotion that's even like slightly beneficial to the player, you can really get them. So it was stuff like that. It evolved later to other stuff, but mostly like promotions or rules, or like a jackpot would be too high, stuff like that. Any ideas on how to set up a smart movie curtain? I don't know what that is, but you could tell me and I could ask. If you could write a law on alcohol, cigarettes, recreational drugs, what would it be? I would legalize everything. I don't use any drugs. I don't drink. I think doing these things is stupid. I think it's the lowest EV thing you can do. However, I do think you should have the freedom to do it, and I think that prohibition tends to not. It does kind of work. Like, the thing is, people think prohibition doesn't work, but when we had it, drinking was lower, and then even when it became legal again, drinking was lower. So it's tricky. Like, I think the reason we don't have a good solution is because it is tricky. But I would like to see. I would decriminalize everything. I would try to get people treatment and support. I would be like, if I could pay higher taxes, and that means that as a society we have less alcohol, drug abuse, sign me up. I'll pay higher taxes. I think alcohol is one of the worst drugs of all of them, and so I would, no matter what, I think it needs to be treated on parity with the other ones rather than be seen as okay. Space Time, you were breaking my heart. Are you sure about that painting back? I put that up there whenever I was on a video call, it was all white. That's a closet door there. It's this white closet door. And I'm like, I look like I'm like in an asylum. Everything's white. It's Hawaii. It's kind of Hawaiian vibe. I'm in Vegas. We got palm trees. I thought this would be cool. It was annoying to put that up. I did it myself. You don't like it? Damn it. That hurts. Yeah, but you gotta take the critical feedback too, I guess. I like it though. I like to have a little bit of color in here. But you can also peel it off. Maybe someday I'll put a better one on. Actually, I have so much good art, and it's really weird. I moved to a bigger house. I have so much good art, but there's more windows here, and I don't want to put it in direct sunlight because I don't want to damage it. And so now there's like nowhere for me to put my art anymore. It's all in a pile, and like I love my art. Even like, wait, where'd it go? Oh yeah, it's back there. Yeah. So, I can't put anything there because too much light goes on. All right, guys, 5 more minutes. One more long question if you have one, or 1 or 2 more short questions. Thank you for coming, by the way. When I'm asking about like, hey, how should I get more people here? I don't want you to think that, I'm not grateful for every person who comes here. I think you guys are awesome. I think you like the best of my readers because you show up, you ask awesome questions. This is really a fun way for me to get to like think about some different stuff, to get to like know you guys a little bit more, see what you care about. And so the way I think about it is that like, I think I got spoiled because the first one, like 100 people were there. So I was like, oh my God, so many people. And now like 30 people, 20 people show up. But what I think about is I'm like, well, if 20 people were just standing in front of me, like listening to what I have to say, that'd be amazing. So anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for showing up. All right, this is a good last question. This is gonna be the last one. And then we're gonna go shoot off fireworks and have hamburgers. Actually, I'm just gonna drink more tea and be on a plane. So, how do you know what you want in small? I don't know if you mean me personally or if you mean in general. Boy, maybe I bit off more than I could chew. This is a big one. So I would say that I think for one, I think a lot of people know what they want, but they don't want to admit what they want. And I think and that tends to be true because I think we're all individuals. We're all into different things. And people are worried that their hobby is going to be seen as not cool or not important. And, there's a very narrow sort of set of things that are seen as like the right thing to do. And I think when people aren't on that, they feel anxious sometimes. So I think a lot of people actually know what they want, and it's just a matter of accepting it. I think another interesting way to do it, if you're trying to figure this out for yourself, or I don't know if you're asking me or if you're going through the process, something that helped me is I thought, what have been the best times of my life so far? And, it's not like a one-to-one because, things change in the future, right? So just because something worked for you for these past 10 years doesn't mean it'll work for the next 10. But there's often principles that will be the same. And so for me, what I found is that quality time with friends, doing like either just chatting, having a conversation, or like doing some stimulating activity like an escape game, stimulating that way, or traveling together, working on something together, figuring something out together. And I just noticed that was what mattered to me. I noticed that was when I felt the best. And not just the best, like maybe you could do drugs and feel the best on a certain level, but you feel the best and like you feel fulfilled and content and like you're contributing and you're, whatever. I think you know what I'm saying. And so then that just made me shift to where I'm like, okay, I'm not traveling by myself much anymore, maybe once in a while. I'm not going to go see movies because what's the point? I'm just going to sit and watch the movie. Why don't I just go hang out with my friend? And I just sort of doubled down. Like, I think maybe some people think I'm boring because all I do is sit around and have tea with my friends. But hey, that's what I like to do. That's what I want to do. So that's what I do. I think there's like this pressure of like, oh, we should all be doing something to save the world. And I think that's great. But, when I think about that, it's not something I really connect with that much. Hey, sorry. Like, I wish it was, or maybe I don't wish it was, but it'd be nice if it was. But I do care a lot about helping, the people who've gone through that trouble or found me on the internet or, my friends, my family. So like, I think you just have to think about what you really care about and what makes you feel fulfilled, and then just try it and try a bunch of stuff too. I think that's the other thing. I try a bunch of stuff and I'm often surprised at what I like and what I don't like. Hope that was a kind of crappy answer. I hope there's something in there that was useful. All right, last one. I'm not answering any after this. Definitely going to go. Find ads in my environment, reduce quality of life. You can. I agree. So you can block tons of ads. AdGuard works great on phones. I think it works on iPhone too. It works on Android. I have ad block and everything. I see almost no ads. If I want to watch a TV show, I just pirate it. Even though most of them, I have like subscriptions to all these different things. I just pirate it anyway because somebody's cut out the ads. Yeah, it's a crime. I really don't care. Like I agree with you. My time is too important to look at ads. When I drive around and I see billboards and stuff, I don't really care. I just sort of zone them out. And I also have a rule that if I see an ad for anything, I won't buy it. So I think that disconnects me from ads a little bit, where they're just totally irrelevant to me other than I saw an ad for this thing, now I'm not going to buy it. Anyway, that's my own weird way. All right, guys. Thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate all of you. Also, to the people watching this later, if you actually made it to the end, that's awesome. Thanks for watching it later. I read all the comments on these too, not just the live chat that we're doing now, but when people leave comments, I also read those. So if you have any suggestions on directions you'd like for this to go, or ways that I can make it easier for you to see this coming up, or different days that you think would be better, anything, let me know. Things you like, things you don't like, would love to hear. All right, guys. Happy 4th of July, wherever you are. Happy just having another awesome day of life. I appreciate you guys. Take care.